This module is about virtual classrooms. The goal for this module is to help you better understand and be able to answer the following questions. What is a virtual classroom? How can a virtual classroom be used for instruction? How do I make my own virtual classroom? Here's an example of a virtual classroom. This virtual classroom was created for a STEAM class, specifically to post work for students to do while on remote learning. This could also be used, though, for face-to-face learning. This virtual classroom has some instructions on the board and several activities. Students can explore the different activities by moving their mouse around and clicking on the links. The idea behind a virtual classroom is to create hyperlinked images so that when a student rolls their mouse around, they can see when they find an image that has a hyperlink. The mouse will turn from an arrow to a pointer finger. So as you can see, there are some different activities for students to participate in. If they click on the different links or images that are hyperlinked, they'll be taken to activities that they can complete for that week. Here's an example. When a student clicks on the Galileo thermometer, they're taken to a web page that explains more what a Galileo thermometer is. When a student clicks on the book on the bookshelf, they're taken to a reading of that book on YouTube. When a student clicks on the Legos on the floor, they're taken to a challenge to do with their own Legos. Some of the activities are links to things that the teacher might have found on the internet. Others are things that the teacher created. For instance, if the student clicks on the plant, they're taken to a nature scavenger hunt bingo. If the student clicks on the window, they're taken to an assignment where they can create a weather journal. This particular virtual classroom is intended to be posted as a week's worth of work for a STEAM specials class. The students have the opportunity to choose which activities they want to do. Now, maybe there would be more options, maybe there will be fewer. In this case, the students are expected to complete 3 different activities of their choosing within the week. It's kind of like a choice board. By the end of the week, they can send pictures of things that they've done or built or created or found, and they also can post to Flipgrid, which is on the board. When they click, they're taken to the Flipgrid where they can submit a video about their experience for the week. Essentially, all their assignments for the week are found on the virtual classroom. Now let's talk about making a virtual classroom. I use Google Slides to make my virtual classrooms. There are a few tools that I use very regularly while making virtual classrooms. The Bitmoji Chrome extension, Google search settings, remove.bg, and the iFunface app. Before we get started on making our classroom, I'd like to show you how to use each of these. We'll start with the Bitmoji Chrome extension. If you type bitmoji.com into your browser, it will take you to the Chrome web store, where you'll see something like this. However, yours will say Add to Chrome on the button instead of Remove from Chrome. Once you've added the Bitmoji Chrome extension to your browser, you'll notice the little icon up here. When you want to use the Bitmoji Chrome extension, you'll need to click on the icon. If you already have an account, you'll be able to log in. If you don't, you'll need to create one and then create your Bitmoji. Creating your Bitmoji is a pretty basic procedure. I'll show you how. I customize my Bitmoji on my tablet. The Bitmoji app can be downloaded from the App Store, and then you can log in or create an account. Once you're logged in, you can customize your avatar to look however you want. You can change the face shape, the skin tone, hair color, hairstyle, the eye color, and many other customizable features. I attempt to make my Bitmoji look as much like me as possible so that it will look appropriate sitting in my classroom when my students think about our class. Once you've customized your Bitmoji, you simply save it to your account, and then it'll be available on the app and on the Chrome extension. Once you've created your Bitmoji and you're logged in on the Chrome extension, you can click the Chrome extension and choose which version of your avatar you would like to use in your virtual classroom. You can search at the top, or you can scroll through most popular, or choose from some of the other selections at the bottom. The next thing I'll show you is how to manipulate your Google search settings. When I'm searching for something to add in my classroom, I type it into the search bar, I click Images, and then I click Tools, which gives me the option to choose images that are labeled for reuse. When I do that, I can feel good about taking an image to use in my classroom. The next tool I'll show you that I like to use often is Remove BG. This allows you to remove the background of an image so that it fits nicely in your classroom. For example, the Galileo thermometer in the STEAM classroom was an image taken from the web that has a white background. When I drop that image on Remove BG, it will take the background out. I can then download and save that to my computer to use in my classroom. The next tool I want to show you is the iFunface app. Now, this is a tool you may or may not want to use when creating virtual classrooms. I tend to create these videos on my phone or tablet and then send them to my computer to be added to my classroom. The iFunface app allows you to take your Bitmoji and make it talk. I do this on my phone or tablet. First, you need to open the Bitmoji app. In the Bitmoji app, you will select the Bitmoji avatar you want to use. I suggest choosing one with a closed mouth. You click on it and save it to your phone. Then switch to the iFunface app. In the iFunface app, you'll choose a photo from your phone albums. Once you've chosen that photo, it'll show on the screen some editing options. You can crop the photo or leave it as is. In order to make the photo or the Bitmoji talk, you have to highlight the entire head of the image. This takes a minute, but be careful to make sure you get it done as carefully as possible. Once you have the entire head highlighted, you can preview to make sure that you're happy with the work that you've done. Then you're going to have to select the mouth. This will be the part that moves. So you want to be careful to get it exactly how you want it by moving both the top, bottom, and corners to line up with the mouth and the bottom of the chin. Again, once you finish this, you can preview to make sure you're happy with your selection. Now you get to record. If you choose to record your voice, you'll have to allow your microphone to work on this app. Once you click record, it'll count down, and then you say what it is that you want to record.
Hi, I'm Mrs. Branch, and I'll be your teacher this year.
Once you've recorded, you can save that to your phone and then send it to your computer to use in your virtual classroom. Now that we understand some of the tools to use when making a virtual classroom, let's talk about how to actually set up your classroom. There are a few basic steps. You start with a new Google Slides template, you create the background, you add the content, and you share. So let's start by creating the actual classroom background. When you're ready to make your classroom, you're going to open a new Google Slides presentation. When I do this, the first thing I do is title the presentation so it's easy to find in my drive later. Then I take out the text boxes that are automatically a part of the slides presentation. Once you have your blank slide, you'll start inserting images. We looked before at how to Google search for different images using the feature that allows you to filter for images that are available for reuse. I prefer to use that method so that I know I'm using images that I am supposed to be using ethically. You can also search right here in the Google Slides by clicking Insert, Image, Search the Web. You'll get a search bar over here where you can begin searching for the different components to your classroom. For instance, you can find an image with a floor that you might want to use. Now again, sometimes I search here in the Google Slides, sometimes I search in a Google search bar using that filter that I showed earlier. We're going to look at how to lay out the classroom. I've gone ahead and collected a bunch of images that would work well in a virtual classroom. There are so many different ways that you can set up your virtual classroom, but in order to save some time, I've gone ahead and placed these images right on the Google Slides presentation, and I'll show you how I move them, crop them, resize them, and recolor them to make the classroom come to life. I usually start with my floor and wall when I'm setting up my classroom because that gives me a foundation to work with. I liked this floor because of the angle of the flooring, which I felt like would give my room depth. So what I'm doing is cropping using the crop tool at the top right here and dragging in so that I can only see the hardwood floor. Then I'll click the crop tool again and I'll have my new image. Now I'm going to resize this. My goal is always to just fill the space of the slide. And I do try to make my floor about 1/3 of the room so I have plenty of space to put things on the floor. Next, I'm going to add my wall. I'm going to crop this as well. And then I'm just going to stretch it to fit. Once I have my classroom set up, I start filling it with different things that might be useful in order for me to display my content. Usually that means a chalkboard or a whiteboard. Today we'll do a chalkboard. I'm going to crop down this image. I liked this chalkboard because it looked authentic, but I need to get rid of the wall behind it. I don't want my chalkboard to be too big because there are other things I want to put on my wall today. I'd like to also include a cork board for notifications for my students. Sometimes I like to include a window. I've put a window right here to show an example. You can resize the window. I like to have a window that faces the outdoors, so I might put a window here. For today, I'm going to leave the window off because I want room for a few other items. I'd like to include a bookshelf to show some of the content objects for students. I'm going to put that in front of the cork board and just shrink my cork board up a little bit and my bookshelf down. Now, I like this bookshelf a lot, but it kind of blends in the floor. So I can recolor this image right here in Google Slides by clicking the image and then Format Options. Over here where it says Recolor, I can choose a different color for my bookshelf. I'd like to add a pop of color today, so I'm going to make my bookshelf green. I've also got this rug to put in the floor and then an armchair. If you put an image in your virtual classroom and you don't like the orientation, for instance, the rug being on top of the chair, you can right-click and then click Order and Bring to Front, and your object will come to the front. I'm also going to recolor the chair. I'd like to add a clock to my classroom. These clocks can be especially useful for elementary classrooms where students are learning time. And then another component I really like to have in my classroom is plants. I'm going to bring this plant to the front. And I'm going to put one plant over here behind the armchair. And my other plant right here by the bookshelf. Here's the basic setup of my classroom. Now I'm ready to add my Bitmoji. Now I'm going to add my Bitmoji by clicking the Bitmoji Chrome extension. When I do this, I can search for what I'm looking for, although in this case, what I'd like is a sitting Bitmoji, which is right here in my recent searches. I'll simply drag that Bitmoji by clicking and holding down and let go once it's on my virtual classroom. Then the person can be put in the chair and resized if needed. And there is the virtual classroom. The final piece to the puzzle in making a virtual classroom is adding content. So your goal in your virtual classroom is to use that classroom to display hyperlinks to different activities, assignments, videos, or other content that you would like your students to engage with. And that can be displayed right in your virtual classroom. So what can I add to my virtual classroom? Well, a virtual classroom can be used to display the activities that you'd like your students to do that week or that day. It can be an exploration place, or it can have specific assignments. I like to use the board that I always put in my virtual classroom, whether whiteboard or chalkboard, to be a place with some instructions and ideas for how to explore the classroom. I do that by clicking Insert, Text Box, and creating a text box right over the board. I'll change my font color to white. And I often put instructions on the board when creating my virtual classroom. If you're using your virtual classroom as a sort of exploration place, you might just give your students instructions on how to use the virtual classroom by encouraging them to use their mouse to scroll around the room. You might also use your virtual classroom to have specific assignments. Maybe there are particular tasks that they need to complete. Those could be listed on the board or on the bulletin board. You might also use your virtual classroom as a sort of choice board. For this example, I've created instructions as if this virtual classroom is a choice board, where there will be many activities in the classroom, but the students need to try to complete at least 3 different activities for the week. So what sort of things can you put in your virtual classroom, and where might you put them? If you would like your students to read a book or hear a book read that particular week, you could put a book on the bookshelf. I do this by finding a picture of the book cover and pasting it in, then shrinking it down so it can fit on my bookshelf. Once the book is on the bookshelf, then you need to hyperlink the book. We do that by finding a link to what you want to be attached to that book. So in this case, I found a YouTube read aloud of the book. I'm going to copy the link. You could also find a PDF of the books if you want the students to read it themselves. And then I'm going to go back to the book. I'm going to click on the book. I'm going to click Insert, Link. Now I will right-click, paste my link, and click Apply. Now that I've done this, if I scroll my mouse over the book, I'll find the hyperlink. The students, when they view your virtual classroom, will also see the same thing. Anything in your classroom can become hyperlinked. I can use any of the images that are already in the room, in addition to adding more images. So for instance, if I would like my students to do something with nature or plants, I could click on this plant and insert a hyperlink. For this example, I'm going to take my nature scavenger hunt, which I created in a Google Doc. I'm going to copy the link, making sure that I've already made this visible to anyone with the link. Click on my plant, click Insert, Link, and paste in that hyperlink. For this classroom, I'm also going to hyperlink my clock. I'd like to use this clock to have students review how to tell time. I'm going to use this link to some free games on the internet on how to tell time. I'll copy the link, click on my clock, and insert the link to that game. You can create your own activities in Google Docs. You can create slideshows in Google Docs that they can visit. You can link videos or activities. You can link learning games or other things that you use regularly in the classroom. If there's a particular platform that you use regularly in your classroom, that could be linked as well. For instance, I like to use Flipgrid with my students. So I found a Flipgrid logo that I have copied, and I will paste to the board here. That way, if I create a Flipgrid for my students to participate in, maybe about something we've learned that week or a book that they have read, they can have a discussion in Flipgrid and they'll access that discussion via this link on the board. Any particular platform or ed tech that you usually use with your students, like Flipgrid or Freckle, can be added to your classroom in any way you see fit. You can put them on the board, you can put them on the bookshelf, and all you have to do is get the link and hyperlink that image. So what else can you put in your classroom? You can put platforms you traditionally use, like Freckle or Flipgrid or Actively Learn. You can put books and videos on the bookshelf. You can put activities that you have created. Traditionally, I do this by putting the instructions in a Google Doc or Google Slides and then linking to that Google Doc the way I did the nature scavenger hunt. You can put links to games that you find online, or you can put links to yourself talking in a YouTube video or other video that you have created. When I use the Talking Bitmoji app and save those videos, I also can insert those in my classroom. The way I do that is by taking that video and saving that video to my computer. Once I've saved that video to my computer, I can drop it into my Google Drive and upload the video that way. If you decide to add a Talking Bitmoji video, think about where you might want to put that in your classroom. You may put that video in place of actually putting your Bitmoji, say, sitting on a chair or a couch. You can insert that video by clicking Insert, Video, and if you have the video saved to your Google Drive, you'll be able to add it in. Now obviously this video doesn't fit the scenery of the classroom, but if I was going to add a video to my classroom, I might use a video of a Bitmoji who is already sitting in a chair and prepare for it to come in looking like this background. In addition, you could also save this video and hyperlink it where when the students click on you, it takes them to the video itself. But if you want to insert the video straight in your classroom, you can do that, and then the students just click play.
Hey class, happy Monday!
That allows them to hear instructions in your own voice. Students seem to really enjoy hearing their teacher's voice and seeing videos of their teacher. So that's a great way to incorporate that into your virtual classroom. So why make a virtual classroom? Well, the number one reason to make a virtual classroom is to engage learners. Young people today enjoy exploration, and a virtual classroom allows them to explore. It's also a very exciting way for them to view their content. A virtual classroom can be used to share content and materials, both those that are used regularly with your students or things that are being used for just one time. A virtual classroom can be used to support remote learning. If you don't have a traditional learning management system, being able to send your students just one Google Slides document or PDF of your remote classroom is a great way for them to access all their materials for a particular day or week. A virtual classroom can also be used in face-to-face learning. This supports a hybrid learning model. During face-to-face learning, a virtual classroom can be used by students to explore and complete assignments while the teacher or instructor is giving one-on-one attention to different students in the classroom. A virtual classroom can be used for all the assignments for the day or the week. It can be used for choice boards where students can pick and choose which assignments they want to complete and then have a way to share or submit photos or examples or feedback on what they complete. It can also be used for exploration. For instance, a music teacher might make a virtual classroom with many different activities that students can explore at any given time during the week. I've seen many virtual classrooms where the teacher actually makes Bitmojis of the students as well, which is an option for any virtual classroom. A virtual classroom can be added to a learning management system via a link or the embedded source code. A virtual classroom can be shared as the Google Slides link, or the Google slide can be downloaded as a PDF and shared with students. When creating a virtual classroom, just remember that the goal is to keep your students engaged and excited about learning. Ultimately, a virtual classroom is an exciting and engaging way to give students a unique opportunity to feel a part of a classroom.